Father, let the words of my mouth and the meditation of my heart keep me from getting so angry, even when these folks are getting on my last nerves. On this episode of Monica Mentors, I want to talk about why are our kids so angry? And we're going to talk about big feelings, small voices. I recently attended an event in Birmingham, Alabama with my brother, who is an educator. And I was so honored to sit in to a lot of the oracle speeches that the kids were doing. And I was listening to a lot of pieces that the kids either wrote themselves or they picked pieces that seemed to depict how they were feeling. And I was really inspired to do this episode based on a lot of what I heard that day. I didn't really hear a lot of joy in those speeches, but there was one young lady that took my breath away because she said this line that I don't think I'll ever be able to forget as long as I do these episodes. She said, "No one has ever taken the time to ask us why we're angry." And so in this episode of Monica Mentors, we're going to dive into the emotions, some negative, that seem to be impacting our communities. Y'all, our kids are feeling angry, and they're feeling angry towards us. Have we unknowingly contributed to that frustration? As the meaning of community shifts from we are family to I don't need anybody but me, how do we rebuild connection and trust for our children? You know, if you think about it, once we stood firm in unity as family, no matter what everybody's circumstance was, we often said, listen, I can talk about my family, but you better not say nothing about my family. Where did we lose that value in our family? And how can we reclaim that bond? And is that the foundation of why our children are so angry with us right now? How does faith shape the way our kids navigate the world that's changing for us, but all of them are being born into it? We're going to talk about it today. Hebrews 10:24-25 NIV version says, "And let us consider how we may spur one another on towards love and good deeds. Don't give up on meeting together, as some are in the habit of doing. Let's start encouraging one another again. And all the more you see it, you'll see a better day approaching." The phrase hurt people hurt people. I started hearing that several years ago from my former pastor. And so it's a very popular saying, I found out. But it's definitely not attributed to one single person. The person I saw that it's often attributed to is, I think it's Yehuda, Yehuda, and the last name was Berg, Berg. And this was a best-selling rabbi who popularized the saying starting in the early, I think it was like 2010. Now, I can relate to the anger that some of our kids are feeling. I was one of those when I grew up. I didn't think anybody cared about my feelings. I didn't know how to express my feelings. I didn't know how to talk to people about what I was feeling. And so intentionally and unintentionally, I invited some anger upon myself that festered, that may not have had to be there, because I didn't know how to express it. I can remember there's another time I had someone who was angry at me for years. I'm talking about, y'all, years. And so when we finally had what I like to call a meeting of the minds, it still didn't, the person was still so angry with me, but I had to get to a space where I had to say, the forgiveness at that point was for me and not necessarily the other person. And so I asked them to forgive me for anything that I had done to them. And I don't think I really had an expectation going into the situation. I just knew that I had to do it based on something that was spoken into my life. And the person is still, I believe, angry at me because it may not have been done the way they wanted it to be done. Listen, love them, would give them the world, but had to let it go and continue. I'm going to continue to pray for that person. And so I share those examples because a lot of times our emotions push us to a place where anger develops, and sometimes before we even realize that that's what it is. And so one of the things, a couple of takeaways I made note of when I was at that evaluation session in Birmingham, Alabama. So I started thinking about community. And what does community truly look like today? Are we still our brother's keeper? Are we still, can I go to the next door neighbor's house and get some sugar? Are we, hey, listen, you want to ride out with me today? Have we deviated so much from that in some ways we have created this palette of negative energy for our children? Have we unknowingly distanced ourselves from our kids? Go in there and get that game. Go in there and watch that movie. Go in there, have we pushed them away from us? Do we even eat together anymore? This person eats this person eats that. So have we knowingly distanced them even in the home? And have we thought about how we need to shift those society connections back into our relationships between the generations? I used to love, oh my God, I used to love spending time with my grandmother and my great-grandmother. Unfortunately, one of our grandmothers on my mom's side, she passed really early, but that's okay. It's not okay, but what happened was on my dad's side, my grandmother was able to fill in on that side. And so love, love, love. I mean, we have stories for days. Grandma, what you doing? I remember when I got in trouble so bad. Oh, my mom made me so mad. I mean, I think I packed a trash bag. Y'all know we had no luggage for real back then. And I went to my great-grandmama's house because I knew I was going to be okay. Do we still have those type of connections? Do kids have time? Do you have time? I often hear recently so many women and men of wisdom are suffering because their grandkids think it's a job to pick up the phone and call them. I know that listen, we have had after school projects and band and football and all this stuff since the beginning of time. What you're doing is nothing new. It's just, how do I choose to value my time? I was on vacation this week, and one of the things that I did, I think I cooked dinner more this week than probably I have in a minute. Y'all don't like cooking when it's hot outside, just FYI. But I really enjoyed cooking, and I know my husband enjoyed it because we ate good, but it was something that I remember even growing up, how we would always have meals together on certain days in my family. And the same thing on my husband's side of the family. And so it was because of wanting to recreate that memory. It made it just seem all the more important to me this week to be able to do it. I had a good friend who transitioned this week unexpectedly. And I was talking to another one of our friends, and it was just really healing to be able to talk about all the things that we used to do together, all the memories that we had, the things we wanted to shape and do this and do that. And so I don't think that if we had not created a true sense of community, I think I heard my mom say that you guys really have a community. Why have we taken our kids so far away from that? Why have we personally gone so far away from that? Have we thought about the impact of isolating ourselves and our kids? And what does isolation mean versus belonging? So, did you guys know that isolation is the state of being alone or disconnected from others? It can be voluntarily or involuntary. But belonging is the feeling of being accepted, valued, or connected within a group or a community. And this was according to psychologytoday.com. So, how do your children actually respond when they feel disconnected from their communities? I was listening to this comedian this weekend, guys, and he was talking about how he didn't realize in raising his children so different than the way he was raised. Now he feels like he doesn't know if his children really value the sense of the community, because they have so much more now based on all the hard work he's done, based on how he was raised. What's wrong with taking our kids back and showing them, hey, this is where I came from? Because it creates a sense of value, in my opinion. When I went home a couple of weeks ago, it made my day. All of the mothers and everybody who's coming up and, oh my goodness, I'm so glad you look so pretty. You look so good. You and your mama's twin. That was really filling to my heart. And I never go back into spaces feeling like I'm better than my community. I'm better than where I was raised. I never felt compelled to do that, nor have I ever felt compelled to ignore how I was raised. When I go home, I try to go to my home church. It may look different than what I'm used to now as an adult, but there's still a level of respect that I have for the community. How do you connect that for your kids? How's your community connected to your kids? Are you embarrassed of where you were raised? Do you feel better than where you were raised? I bet you those people from slavery didn't have that attitude to be able to get you where you are now. How do you use faith in rebuilding connections? Do you know that you can use the Bible to help you to learn how to strengthen relationships and bring back a sense of unity? You can use love and compassion. Jesus commanded believers to love one another as you loved him. John 13:34 says, you can foster love, you can connect, and you can heal in your relationships. Another way to help kids with that anger, help them with forgiveness. I believe unforgiveness is the number one reason why there's so much anger in our society. Listen, I know there were a lot of people who don't look the same, that mistreated a whole lot of people. I know they did a lot of stuff. I know they said a lot of stuff. I know people who look alike said and did a lot of stuff, but you got to just forgive it and let it go and keep moving. Don't ever you don't have to forget it, because sometimes what you remember keeps you humbled. But you can forgive, because forgiveness is not for the other people, it's for you. How much unforgiveness is rooted in your anger? And then multiply that for your kids. Ephesians 4:32 says, encourage kindness and forgiveness, reminding you God forgave you. Your mama and your daddy forgave you. Your siblings forgave you. So why are you so arrogant enough to think that you can't forgive other people? Humility is key. serve. Philippians 2:3-4 teaches us that unity comes from considering others above ourselves, serving with humility. I remember same thing. My husband and I were out in Atlanta one day going to dinner. This was years ago. I didn't even remember there was an individual who I had helped when I was serving our homeless community, and I guess the situation had gotten worse, and he did not, the gentleman noticed me before I didn't see him, and he saw my husband. So my husband was off to the side, and he told, please don't let your wife see me, because he didn't want me to be disappointed that he was still in the same situation that he was in. That did so much for my heart, because when I served him, I didn't go into it wondering what I could get out of the situation. I just wanted him to have a meal that day. We just wanted to make sure he had clothes that day. But the fact that he remembered that moment, I'm talking about, y'all, this is a good 7-8 years later, was so humbling for me. And it always makes me mindful when I'm serving in the community. And when I feel myself getting angry, it always brings me back down, because what if somebody got angry at the decisions that I made, and instead of me checking myself like a lot of us don't do. See, it's easy to blame other people when you're angry, but a lot of times you have to start looking at yourself. And that's why some of you guys, kids, are so angry, because y'all have created this atmosphere that it's okay to do it. Remember, your kids, they follow what you do first, and then they hear what you say. Shut up, Monica. Say that again. They follow what you do first, and then they listen to what you said. Do you bring any communication of peace? Proverbs 15:1 says, the power of gentle words is the way to resolve anger and conflict. Romans 12:18 says, live peaceably with everyone, or live in peace. You mean you got to like them? Just live in peace. You ain't even got to be around them. Just live in peace. Galatians 3:28 reminds us that all of us are one in Christ, regardless of the differences that we have. Now, there are some ways that you can restore trust and love in our communities so we can get rid of all this anger. Be practical. Sit down and talk to your kids. Find out why they're angry. And don't judge or assume. Don't say, oh, that ain't nothing. I have to get up and go to work every day. That's all you mad about. Don't do that to them. Because what will happen is they are trusting you to hear them. And you might learn something, because what may sound simple to you may sound like a mountain to a kid. And y'all, things fester. What did I just tell y'all at the beginning of the video? The young lady had been angry with me so long, and I still didn't know. I didn't have a clear picture of what her anger was about, but I felt compelled to apologize to her no matter what. And so anger festers. There are some people you're probably right now haven't spoken to a loved one or someone you used to be friends with in years, and you're still angry. So the first step to restore trust and love in your communities is you're going to have to you're going to have to look at yourself. There is no perfect man. There is no perfect person. Now, what are some of the causes of aggression in your children? Well, according to the Child Mind Institute, frustrated kids who have problems is what they call intellectual impairment, or what we hear nowadays, autism. But it also could manifest into aggression. When children with these conditions become aggressive, they often do so because they have difficulty dealing with the anxiety that they feel. Or they're frustrated because they feel like they can't verbalize their feelings like you do. This aggression could also cause them to make impulsive decisions. which can also come off as unhealthy choices. Mom and dad, when anger in a child goes unchecked, and this is a key you have to take away from this show, it can lead to a variety of emotional, social, and even physical challenges. Here's an example. A child who's having difficulty with emotional regulation. If a child doesn't learn how to manage anger, they start to struggle with controlling their emotions, which can lead to frequent outbursts, not only to their teachers, their peers, but to you. And then they tend to withdraw. They tend to support strained relationships, meaning their uncontrolled anger makes it hard for them to build trust with other kids. That's not even just kids outside of the household. That could even be their siblings. It makes it hard for them to build and maintain friendships and family bonds, which can lead to isolation or resentment. Causes behavior issues. A child might develop aggressive tendencies to become defiant to you, to their teachers. I know a lot of y'all don't think your children cut up in school, but they do. And this makes it difficult for them to succeed in school. And that's where it creates a tendency for you to allow your children to be labeled unnecessarily simply because they're having a tough moment. I know a lot of people won't agree with me. Everything is not autism. Some of this, the kids are just mad. All right. No doctor tell me that. That's just my opinion. Kids then suppress anger turns into anxiety and depression. You start seeing your kids having feelings of sadness. They don't really want to talk on the phone. They become withdrawn. You don't even realize they're developing, unfortunately, a level of stress. They feel like they're helpless. They feel like no one can help them figure out how to get out of this situation. There you go. Leads to anxiety or depression. Some children tunnel their anger into reckless actions, self-harm. I had a family member that dealt with that when he was younger. They start destroying property. They start making risky choices, such as having sex too soon. They start making online choices where they find themselves in situations where child trafficking pops into. There's a lot of potential reckless choices that pop up from children who are dealing in angry and destructive behavior. They start performing low in school, their academics. You'll see a student who was a straight A student. You'll see them at that point, they're becoming an F student. That's a problem. Unmanaged anger can interfere with their focus. They have a hard time problem solving. They're not motivated by school. And it makes it harder for those kids to succeed. We want our kids to succeed again, y'all. Long-term impact on their identity and their self-worth. If anger isn't properly addressed and understood, a child can potentially suffer with self-esteem issues and develop unhealthy coping mechanisms into adulthood. How many times have you heard someone say, this child been like this? They've been like this since they was a child. We might laugh it off, but there's something to that. This child been like this long as I can remember. That's not funny. We'll laugh. We're like, you know what? You sure right. This joker have been doing this since he was little or she was little. Did anybody slow down to say, baby girl, why you angry? Why you so mad? What's going on? Dude, why you so mad? What's up? You can identify those things. And if you're not sure, I say this, I'm going to say it until I'm purple in the face. There are too many counseling and therapy options that are available, mentors that are available. I don't come to you guys because I was a picture perfect person. Hey, this book right here, The House That Never Fails, I wrote this because I was mad. And so I choose to put a lot of times my anger into words. And so you can find ways to help your children, one, understand what anger looks like, help them to understand what it feels like, and then sit down with them and talk through it. Pray, 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 pray. If you're not sure, pray. Ask God to give you discernment to see the signs. All right, Lord, what's going on with this child? Why every time they come home, they're going straight to their bedroom? There are some things that we call old-fashioned that are pivotal tips and tools, y'all, that we need to re-invite back into our community. I know there's this term I hear all the time, they're needless traditions, but some traditions are needed to get our kids back into a place where they need to be. So, as we wrap up this episode today, let us remember that helping our kids recognize, express, and manage their anger is not just about behavior, but it's about their emotional well-being and growth. When children learn healthy ways to handle their frustration, whether through open conversation, prayer, reading the Bible, doing calming activities, or problem-solving skills, you give them the tools to help them build stronger, less confrontational relationships. You help them to face challenges with resilience. You help them to grow into emotional, healthy individuals. And the most important tip, they will understand what it means to forgive and to let it go so that it won't fester. Mom and Dad, are you in a house full of angry kids? Are you filled with anger? And are you at a point where you have to realize only you can make the choice to do something about it? You going to jump on the bandwagon? Or you going to keep on doing the exact same thing, getting the exact same results? This is your host, Monica Martin Fletcher, and I am so excited about getting your feedback on this episode. I thank the people in Birmingham. I thank you guys, everyone who was the motivator for this episode. I thank you because you even helped me realize, as I hope I've helped you realize today, now is the time for the saints to rise up, to possess the kingdom, and to take our communities back, one child at a time. I'll see you guys next time on the next episode of Monica Mentors.